This is a trend that we've seen nationwide. We've been seeing the marriage rate drop across almost the entire United States, really across the last 20 to 30 years. It's a little bit more recent in Utah in terms of how significant the drop is. But now in the last 10 years, particularly in the last 5 years, we've seen almost all other indicators of romantic connections declining too. So we're seeing dating rates decline, we're seeing dating in high school decline, we're actually seeing teen pregnancy and sexual activity rates decline as well.
And it's interesting looking at Utah specifically, since so long we've been a state that pushes marriage, a lot of people getting married younger, especially with the LDS culture tied into it. How are we doing in comparison to the nationwide trends?
Utah in most areas when it comes to family trends has been catching up with the large United States, and that's partially two main factors. One is just Utah's more diverse than it used to be. It's not as stereotypically religious as it used to be. There's been a lot of people moving from other parts of the United States that makes Utah look just a lot like other Western states. But then generally, you stated the connection with religion, and we're seeing more and more religious young adults also do a lot of the same things that their peers are doing in terms of delaying marriage. It used to be that religious young adults looked very different, and now they look a little bit different, but they're starting to move in a lot of the similar directions. One of the things I've talked about in some of my past work is what I call the marriage paradox, which is most people and most young adults for really forever, at least in modern history, have said marriage is really important. But increasingly, young adults say it's really important, but not right now. And I call that a marriage paradox because they're saying something's really important in their life, but they're also saying it's not a very high priority. And really when we dig into that, what we're finding is that for most people, marriage is still something they plan for. It's still oftentimes a goal for themselves in life. But particularly in young adulthood, into the 20s and even early 30s, people are really starting to prioritize other things. First and foremost, career. When we ask people specific questions in some of our research about what do you prioritize in young adulthood during your 20s, usually for most people, it's their education and their career. And so it's not necessarily that marriage has become less important, but it's certainly become less relatively important to people. It's kind of at the bottom of the priority list. Interestingly, another thing that really comes up in that research is people have increasingly been prioritizing their hobbies and leisure. So things like travel, pickleball, sports. That's something now that in some of the research studies that I've done actually is more important to young adults in their 20s than dating and getting married.
Yeah, there's almost this push to be more independent. You don't need a man, you don't need a woman, you can take care of yourself, kind of that focus on self-care, right?
Yeah, and specifically what it really is it's been an increased focus on individual happiness. That so much of the message we give to kids and teenagers and young adults is find what makes you happy. And so it makes a lot of sense that they're prioritizing their education, their career, what is it going to make me fulfilled in life, travel, personal hobbies, all those things that are going to bring personal happiness into my life now are really prioritized. And for most young adults, marriage and dating, it's still there, it's still a goal, but it's not something they look at and say, this is going to bring me a lot of personal happiness. If anything, it's the opposite. That's going to be a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of sacrifice. And particularly in their 20s, there's not as much urgency to do something that's going to make life harder.